Hello everyone. Today we are making some sourdough bread. This is a beginner-friendly guide as I am myself pretty much a beginner. So all you're going to need is some flour, some sourdough starter, and some salt, and also some water. For your sourdough starter, you're going to want to feed this approximately 12 hours before you start your batch. So this is my mother starter. I took a couple spoonfuls of this out of the jar this morning. I put it into this bowl and fed it with about a cup of flour and like a half a cup of water. Really, I don't do anything specific for measurements. I just kind of eyeball it, and I'll insert a clip showing you how I'm feeding it. What you can do to know if your starter is ready yet to bake, other than the visual indicators, which are lots of bubbles, activity. I recommend if you're a beginner that you feed it in a mason jar and then put an indicator line on where your starter is when you feed it, and then you can see it grow. And after about 12 hours it should be doubled in size, and that's when you're ready to use your starter. So this is the start of the fun. And this is why I was so excited to share this video with you guys, because this recipe does not require a gram scale. I think as you get more advanced, you'll want to start using a gram scale for like the different types of sourdoughs that you would be making. But for this one, you really don't need a gram scale. And sourdough, although delicate, is also pretty robust. So we're gonna put about a half a cup of our fed starter into the bowl. And then we will be putting in about 1 1/3 cup water. I forgot to mention that this recipe makes 1 loaf. So it's very beginner friendly because, if you mess up the loaf, then you're not wasting a whole bunch of flour. So from here, I'm just going to take my Danish whisk. You can really use any whisk or even a fork, and just mix it until it gets nice and milky. Now every starter has a little bit of a different hydration. So if you fed the starter with a little bit higher water ratio, it might adjust how much flour you should put in, but I recommend starting with 3 cups because you can always put more flour in, but you can't necessarily take flour out. So we're going to put 3 cups of flour into the bowl with the water in the starter. Now I personally do like using the King Arthur flour. I don't use bread flour, I use all-purpose flour. You'll see many different videos recommending many different flours. You don't need bread flour, you can use all-purpose flour. Really the difference there is the protein factor. This 11% all-purpose flour will do great for you. So now you're left with a pretty shaggy bowl of flour. We're going to let this rest for 30 minutes to an hour, depending on what you have going on. I typically do 30 minutes. Now there's multiple different methods you can use during this next phase, which is a fermentation phase. What we're gonna do is the stretch and fold method, where we come back and stretch and fold this, and I'll show you later, every 30 minutes for 2 hours. So I'm going to cover this with some plastic wrap, and then we'll check back in 30 minutes. Okay guys, it's been about 30 minutes. Taking the plastic wrap off, and we're going to start with our series of 4 stretch and folds. For this one, we are going to be adding in a salt and water mixture. This just gives the bread flavor, the salt, and I mix it in with a little bit of water to make it more easily combined with the dough. So I'm going to show you guys what the stretch and folds look like. Alright guys, so first you want to wet your hands a little bit, and we're just going to put our salt and water mixture. Use about 2 teaspoons of salt, mix it in with just a little bit of water. And now we're going to slide our hand down the side of the bowl, grab the edge of the dough, and just pull it up as much as you can without ripping the dough and folding it back over itself. We're gonna do this in a counterclockwise motion, and you're just gonna continue around to make a full circle. And you can see already that it's getting much smoother than it was previously. All right, so I've made it around about 2 times. I'm going to let it rest again for another 30 minutes with the plastic wrap on. See you in a little bit. Okay, so that was just fold number 2. As you guys could see from the clip, it's just gotten a lot smoother, and so it'll continue to get smoother, and the purpose of this is to build structure in the gluten, and so the next 2 will just continue to build the gluten structure. Ready for the overnight bulk fermentation phase, so I just put plastic wrap on it and then put it in like a warmer spot of the house to bulk ferment. You know, this could take anywhere from like 8 to 12 hours depending on the temperature of your house. I'll show you what it looks like in the morning and what you kind of want to see to indicate that it's done in the bulk fermentation stage. So see you guys in the morning. This is where you need to build tension in the loaf. So we're gonna push and then pull, and then push and then pull. So we just pre-shaped the loaf. We're gonna let that rest for about 20 minutes. Put a tea towel over it, and then I'll see you in a bit. We're going to shape it one more time. Feel more gentle this time, and we're not going to spread it out as much as the last time. The same thing, you just flip horizontal and horizontal, and then turn it and roll it up. And again, building tension, push, pull. Now I have a basket, but you don't need a basket. You can just use a bowl with a tea towel. Sprinkle it on your towel. I'll put a little bit on my dough. Just turn it upside down and into your toweled bowl. What I do is I put a damp tea towel over the top. And you want to cold proof this for anywhere north of 8 hours. It doesn't really matter after that. And then after the 8 hours in the cold, you'll be ready to bake it. And I'll be back when we're ready to bake. It has been a full work day. Anyway, we're ready to flip this onto some parchment paper and score it. So I'll give you guys a little look at the dough. And now we're gonna score it with my lame. If you don't have a lame, that's okay. You can use a serrated knife to make a couple of deep cuts in it, or you can use kitchen scissors. But I will be showing you how I score it with the lame. And these are like shallow cuts. You want to save the big cuts. Those are your expansion lines. And so the bread will expand in the direction of your large cuts. So I made 8 sections. I'm going to do every other one with the wheat stalks. Now it's time for the big expansion cuts. So we're going to go this way and this way. So these ones are deep. I'm not consistently the best at decorating my loaf, but there's what she looks like. And I forgot to mention what you should already have going on is preheating your oven to 500 with a Dutch oven in the oven. The Dutch oven is crucial. It will give you a really nice oven spring and it keeps the steam inside the Dutch oven. It's really difficult to bake sourdough in a conventional oven on like a baking sheet. So I'm gonna get the Dutch oven out. So it's going in with the lid on for about 20 minutes. It's almost time. Ooh, she's looking good. Let me show you. Look at that. That is a good looking bread. Okay, so now it's gonna go back in. We're going to bake at 450. And it's gonna get brown on top. I usually like to watch it. Like some people will say 15 minutes. I tend to take it out around like 12. So it just is like your preference for how brown you want it. Oh yeah. That looks beautiful. Thank you. So here's what she's looking like. One way you can tell that it's done is by knocking the bottom of the loaf. And if it sounds hollow, then it's done. So we need to let this sit for a couple hours, probably like an hour and a half, because what you don't want is to cut it right away unless you're gonna eat the whole loaf, because the steam will steam off and it won't be as good. I don't know how to describe it, but you just need to let it sit. All right, y'all. I just buttered my bread and we're gonna try it. Delicious. Can't go wrong with some homemade sourdough. It's worth the 2-day process. Thanks for watching.